Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I'm so delighted to see this beautiful room of conscious visionaries. Let me get the mic in place there. Thank you. I am Angie Krenz, Executive Director of our Conscious Capitalism Great Lakes Bay Region chapter, and it is my deep, deep pleasure to welcome you this morning. We have an amazing event planned for you today, and I know that you are going to receive just great value in your time here with us today. So, conscious capitalism, for those of you who don't know, this is all about a philosophy. It's a movement of leaders that believe business is a powerful force for good. And I would just like to start the morning by thanking each of you for being one of those conscious leaders. You are here today because you have a heart for using business as a force for good in our community and all the communities that you touch. Our movement's leaders are working to improve the practice and purpose of capitalism by rallying around 4 tenets of conscious capitalism. Those are conscious leadership, conscious culture, higher purpose, and stakeholder orientation. And today we're going to take you through a journey exploring how that shows up for you personally as a leader and how that shows up in the organizations you lead and the lives that you touch. We like to come together in ways that create and sustain networks of support. We build local communities of conscious leaders, and we provide access to information and ideas to help elevate your leadership and those you lead as well. And most importantly, we love to tell stories of how business is being used as a force for good, and that's exactly what we are here to do today. So again, our chapter community, this is a community of like-valued people that we love to say have found their people. Sometimes, often I would say, people will come and say, I've been looking for this group. I've had a number of you come up to me already this morning to say, this is my group of people, and we love that. We are here for you exactly to be your tribe of people and supporting you. If you're new to our community, you might hear some different words today. Conscious and capitalism are words that can be a little wonky for people. So I'd like to just take a moment to bring us together in an understanding of how we are using those words here today and what we mean by conscious leadership. I think there are probably 100 different definitions of the word conscious and leadership in this room. Would that be accurate? So let's just take a bit of alignment time together. We define leadership not by role, not by title, not by your position or your rank. We are defining leadership by a way of thinking about the influence that we all have in any moment of time. And that happens whether we're paying attention to it or we're not paying attention to it. We are all constantly in a position of leadership influence. And just like leadership, we could have 100 different definitions in this room of the word conscious. So for today, our purpose of defining conscious is just to use it synonymously with awareness. We are developing awareness around our influence in the world and in ourselves. And that's what we invite you to consider today as you explore this with us. And I want you to remember that that travels with you whether you're in a boardroom, whether you're in a family room, whether you're making a major decision for yourself. It in fact impacts the way we think, we communicate, and we behave for ourselves and for others. So can we all just agree for today that that's a simple definition of conscious leadership we can live with, right? All right, thank you. So we hope that today's program serves as just a really inspirational resource for you as you plan out the journey of conscious capitalism for yourself, maybe for the first time, maybe for years down the road, and you're just ready to take a new way of looking at things. We have a really unique opportunity today. We get to peek into kind of the behind the scenes of 3 really exceptional conscious leaders. And what I really want and hope that you'll all understand is there is no specific way to do this. We have a lot of words that bring a language of conscious capitalism together, and organizations and leaders can find that really helpful to have that shared language together. But everybody does this journey in their own way, and we have no expectation other than that. So we're going to take a look into what's going on in our community, in our state, and also at an international level through 3 conscious leaders who are unpacking the power of purpose with impact. We're going to explore the possibilities that become available when we foster the synergy of unlocking the conscious and collective intelligence of an organization. We're going to help you plan the next leg of your journey from wherever you may be by sharing just the support and engagement opportunities that we offer here and at the national level through our chapter. And we're also then going to wrap the day discovering what becomes possible when we choose to lead with heart and compassion and care for all of our stakeholders. And we have a wonderful message from Bill Dobbins about what a community can be and can aspire to and can return to when we lead with care and compassion. So I thank you for choosing to take time to be with us today. We know it's a rather long engagement. We're just so excited to share everything with you this morning. So we value your time. We're going to try to keep everything very on track. And so along with me, because I could use one at the moment, I just invite you all to take a deep breath, to just get ready to engage and kind of set a bit of an intention around how you want to show up today, what you want to take from this learningful experience alongside of us. And with that, I'm going to invite Jean Pickelman, our chair of our Great Lakes Bay Region Chapter Board, to come and give a welcome, and we're going to get started. So thank you for being here today.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. Very excited to see all of you. I know we have our 4 tenant partners here, and we have some new attendees today. And I am absolutely positive you'll walk away with just a great experience. And as Angie was sharing, maybe a different way of looking at life and how we can impact people. Just a very special thanks to the 4 tenant partners. You know who you are here, and without your support, we wouldn't be able to do the things that we're doing today. Quite honestly, you have been with us. Most of you have been with us for the 5-6 years we've been running this chapter, and I just can't express my gratitude enough for your generosity and your encouragement along the way. And for you new attendees, I'm very excited for all of you. I think you're going to find today exceptionally profound and interesting and engaging. And again, if you're not a 4 tenant partner, we're going to be addressing this later on today. But I encourage you to join along with us as we go forward. I am super excited to be able to introduce our first speaker today, Theresa Carrington. Theresa is the Queen Mother in a traditional area of Ghana, Africa. Theresa Carrington has dined with chiefs, had tea with traditional kings, and regularly works with U.S. embassies around the world. She is a global speaker, giving talks in more than 14 countries across 5 continents. She's an author. Theresa has won 13 Mid-America Emmy Awards as a journalist and received honorary doctorate from honorary doctorate of humanities from one of the world's top 50 colleges. She has helped more than 8,000 families onto the road to prosperity through her pioneering formula to end poverty. Yet Theresa's real talent is milking goats. To learn more about Theresa's extraordinary life, ask her about Trampus, her pet skunk, whose unlikely companion offers a quirky and endearing glimpse into the foundational experiences that has shaped her path. Theresa is a big supporter of conscious capitalism movement. I met Theresa at CEO Summit 6 years ago, where she shared her story. At the conference, her message was so inspiring, she received a continuous standing ovation. It was amazing. I was blessed to meet her personally one evening at one of the receptions where our relationship began. Now Theresa and I connect every month with a small group of CEOs throughout the country to discuss our stories, our heartaches, and optimism for the work we do to impact lives. I am truly blessed to have her in my life and call her my friend. This is what Theresa will share with us today. Theresa's journey from personal adversity to empowering others through the Blessing Basket Project is a testament to the power of community, compassion, and enduring strength of the human spirit. What started as one woman's vision to create a sustainable solution that reduces poverty in developing countries evolved into the Blessing Basket Project, which has helped alleviate financial burdens in the lives of more than thousands of moms around the world in the last decade. My hope is that her story will illustrate compassion and raise our level of consciousness as we view the world. I'm confident her message will inspire innovation as we take lessons she will share and adopt them to make a positive impact on those all around us. I am very excited for all of you to have the opportunity to listen and learn about this movement of love, support, and empowerment, one basket at a time. Theresa Carrington. Knock it out of the park.
Okay. Well, this better be good, huh? With an intro like that, I mean, for heaven's sakes. Let's see if our clicker is working. We're clicking, we're not working. Oh, is that the way that it always goes when you're on one of these moments? This is a calabash. It is a life-saving tool in Western Africa, rural Western Africa. And every man, woman, and child in Western Africa has to have a calabash in order to survive. So it's a vessel from which you eat, drink. It can be worn as a hat to protect you from the sun. But if you don't have one, you're unlikely to survive in rural West Africa. This calabash comes from Ghana. Ghana borders the Ivory Coast, and when I fly there later this afternoon, journey will take me more than 21 hours. In the extreme northern section of the country, near the Burkina Faso border, there's a little tiny village called Niarga, and it is there that 10 by 3, the organization I founded, previously known as the Blessing Basket Project, has been working for nearly 20 years. It's one of 7 countries that we serve. And it was also here in 2013 that I received this very calabash as a wedding gift. Now, to understand why the calabash is such a precious gift that you would give it at a wedding, you have to understand the community of Niarga. Niarga is a place that's been forgotten by its government. Those who live here rise to survive, or they rise to die based on the efforts of their own 2 hands. In Niarga, you eat what you sow. And when you sow your seeds from a calabash, it ensures a special blessing at harvest time. Elders are the source of wisdom. Chiefs are the rule of law. They approve marriages, land deals. They make sure that their communities run and run well. The people of Niarga exist in extreme poverty. There are huge expanses between neighbors. Most houses are made of mud, which means there's no running water, no sanitation. And young girls spend the majority of their day going to distant wells to collect water to ensure the survival of their families. And it's here. The final mile of poverty remains. 11% of the world's population still exists in extreme poverty, and they exist in places like Niagara. And it's also here, in villages like this, that 10 by 3 does its best work, elevating humanity through business. Now, nobody knows the back-breaking work and the importance of the calabash better than my African grandmother, Asampana. She was known for being persistently positive and for being exceptionally hardworking. I once asked grandmother how old she was, and she said, "You know the one they call old man?" I was like, "Yeah, I do." She said, "Well, I knew him when he was a baby." She had an incredible sense of humor. Before grandmother died at the age of 106, I asked her, "What accomplishment are you the most proud of?" And with a rare found seriousness, she looked at me and said that I, no matter how hungry I was, never begged. And she proceeded to tell me about what she called the doom days, the days where she would take the seeds from the baobab tree, you would know it as the tree of life, and she would crack them open. And from there, she would use a mortise and pestle until she got away the chaff from the meat inside the seed. And it was from there she would use her calabash to carefully sift until she had a very fine flour. And she would mix that flour with water to become a nutritional paste that she and her children would eat once a day to survive. Yet she never begged. She never begged. And she did all of that while living inside this tree for shelter. Like all who live in Niagara, grandmother used her calabash to ensure the survival of her family. And when I returned to her compound in 2016 after she died, upon stepping inside, I was handed her calabash filled with water to wash away my grief. The calabash is a way to hold space, to nourish and care for the people that you love. But I believe one of the most beautiful uses of the calabash is how it's used to welcome strangers. In Niagara, when a stranger comes to your compound, no words are spoken. Someone just grabs a calabash, rushes to fill it with water, and gives it to the stranger. And it's only after the stranger has taken their fill of water do you dare ask, "What brings you?" Good morning. I'm Theresa Carrington. And Angie and Jean asked me to come here today to share some of my stories of conscious leadership from around the world. Each of these stories is going to lead us to 4 critical questions. And you're going to share at your small tables, and then we're going to hear your voices to the room. And now, we've led you to our first question, which is conscious leadership. How do you hold space for your team, for your customers, for your family, for your community? Angie is going to be our timekeeper. She's setting a 5-minute clock. And we would ask you to share right now at your tables, starting now. Okay, if you can begin to wind your conversations down, we're going to start to do a share out. Sort of just finish up those last final thoughts. And now I'm looking for a volunteer to share about the discussion at your table. And this is the part where if nobody volunteers, I have to cattle prod somebody, and trust me, I have one, so. So does anybody, would you like to volunteer about just to talk about the discussion you had at your table? All right, go right ahead.
I'll go first.
Please introduce yourself and let us know about your discussion.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rob Clark. I'm the senior company that can create more opportunity for others to hold space.
Thank you. Let's give him a big old round of applause. You know, I think at an event, the first voice in the room, it's really important. So thank you so much for being the first one. To continue to keep us on time, I'm going to enter into our second story. Adambila Awelgia. She's a friend of mine. I'll be seeing her by late tomorrow afternoon. She lives in the village of Niarga that we've been talking about. Now, she can't read, she can't write. And the village that she lives in views her really just as a village woman, no education. She was traded for property. She gave birth to 3 children who died before they could walk. And then she gave birth to 2 sons. But Adambila's higher purpose started happening when she had a daughter. Because you see, Adambila realized that unless someone did something, her daughter was going to face the same future that she had, no education, being viewed as a piece of property. And so she decided that even though she was viewed in her community as not worthy of anything, she had no education, she had nothing to offer. That's how people saw her, that's who she was. But she knew her higher purpose, who she wanted to be, was someone who changed the face of education for girls like her daughter. And so she went to all of the mothers, forming what they call the Niarga Duni Mothers Club, each woman giving what little pesewa they had. Remember, we are in extreme poverty in this community, and they raised enough money to get benches and a chalkboard. And the first public junior high school for girls in the entire Upper East region was born. But it was outside, subject to the wind, the rain, the lizards falling from the trees, inspired by their mothers. These young ladies, some of them walked more than an hour one way just to get to school. Adambila's higher purpose was happening. And then 10 by 3 came along and put a little wind in Adambila's sails. We built one of the best schools, public schools in the entire region. It's a model school. It has a computer lab and has very recently electricity. You see, Adambila refused to accept how others saw her and instead focused on what she wanted to be, which was her higher purpose. Our girls test as some of the smartest in the country. And because they are educated, they now refuse to be child brides. Child marriage is almost eliminated in the community. Female illiteracy went from 5% up to we reversed it. We have 95% of our young girls know how to read and write. And for the first time in the village's history, they're going on to high school. And girls like Gloria Atia are even going on to college. They're becoming nurses, teachers, lawyers. Just a few years ago, Adambila graduated from our program. As she was living out her higher purpose with the help of 10 by 3, she was also starting 3 small businesses. In this graduation ceremony, she is declaring herself free of poverty and sustainable and on her own. Do you know today that she has 5 businesses producing more than 40 streams of income? Incredible entrepreneur. She has left a legacy because she was brave enough to ask herself, who am I today? And who do I want to be? And she's been an example for every woman in her community. And now it's your turn. How do people see your company today, or you individually? You can take this both ways, as our first table did. Who are you today? How does the community see you? How are you received? But who do you really want to become? You've got 5 minutes, and then we'll share out. Angie, please start our clock. All right, let's go ahead. And who is going to be the table that will, this must have been a good one. You guys are really engaged on this one, so that makes me happy. So who would like to share the conversation at their table? Who's going to share? Any volunteers? Okay, we've got one clear over here. So Mark, way over there. Is this where we all chant? Mark.
My name is Chris Pryor. I serve as pastor of Victorious Believers Ministries. I'm honored to be at a conglomerate table of nonprofit and for-profit working together.
That's awesome.
But it's resounding as we continue to share. It always resolves and comes back to family. I think the other table said something that we don't want to be a public success and a private mess.
That's a
And
good
so it's
line.
important for us to always resolve around family and moving the family forward, making sure that our daughter knows that she has the opportunity to move forward and excel as a young lady, making sure that as we are exiting in some terms, that we're pulling up the next generation. And so that has been the resounding thing of making sure that we create lasting memories as a family. Last for me, before my father transitioned or died, he had come from Burkina Faso.
Oh, my goodness.
He had served there to do a missions work. And so never knowing where we will be is making sure, knowing that someone is there to continue the legacy, not knowing that I would ever serve in that capacity after him passing, coming from that location. So it's touching today to be here, and Lady Carrington, for you to share this on today, which my oldest son's name is Carrington.
All right. Well, you are welcome to join me in Ghana anytime. All right. I think we have, in this case, one more time for one more share. You guys were really engaged. Is there any other table who would like to share? I see some activity over here. All right, we've got a microphone here. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Julie Molesky, Next Year Automotive. This is Jen Nigel. She works with us, too, and Sam Jones does our success coaching. So thank you, everyone, for being here today. But I think, too, we talked about how we want to do so much for the community and want to do more as next year. But it's really hard in the environment we've all been in. And really hard, I think, isn't an excuse, but everybody knows manufacturing in the U.S. is a tough gig these days, and it's been a really tough couple of years. So I think it's that figuring out how to change our internal situation and some of our thoughts internally, and just try to get our internal culture together to want to do more. And especially sort of post-COVID, I'm sure all of you struggle with this too, that when now people are in the office a little bit less, so it's a little bit harder to have you leave the office one of your days you're there to volunteer. How do you continue to push the community forward as a whole, but also to kind of rise your organization up? Because knowing that your organization's doing well and growing well and people are hopeful, I think is also core to all of our existence in the region. So that was a lot. Does that cover what we talked about, ladies? Anybody want to jump in? Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for being here today.
And you know, when we have these questions come up like this, like how do I manage, how do I navigate, that is, you're looking at your brain trust. This is conscious capitalism. Everyone in the room is struggling with some sort of question. And so you guys are going to be your best advocates and your best listening panels as you struggle with some of these issues, because they're very important. Well, this is 4-year-old little Theresa. And it was the first and last time I ever wore high heels. This picture was taken by a Kansas social worker. My birth mom, when I was born, was in prison, and my dad was in Vietnam. And by the time this photograph was taken, every horror that could happen to a child, I had already endured. And so the state of Kansas took possession of me, and it was their job to try to find me a stable home. And that's when I landed here on a farm in South Central Kansas at the home of an artist. And it was here on this farm that I learned one of the most important skills to being a conscious leader, and that is bravery. This is 6-year-old little Theresa up on the roof, and I just want us to study this for just a second. Okay, she tricked me up the ladder. It was not OSHA approved, I'm pretty sure, and even at 6, I was certain of that. I don't know where my gloves are. Why am I ripping shingles off a roof with no gloves, with no hard hat? But I think the most important part of this picture is what is going on in the lower right-hand corner there at the eave. Do you see that can? That indeed is a 1974 can of Coors beer. So she was drinking and roofing with me. Now, the state of Kansas thought these parenting skills were off the chain. And as a result, they allowed this crazy lady to adopt me. Can you tell me who had a pet dog growing up? Where's my dog people? What was your dog's name? Babe. Babe, got it. Cute name for a dog. My cat people, where's cat people? Oh, yes, I'm in Michigan. Okay. What was your cat's name? Saki. So we have Babe and Saki, which are very normal childhood pets. Crazy drinking roofer lady here gave me a pet skunk. And she tried to convince me that it was just like a dog. His name is Trampus. He loved macaroni and cheese. He slept with me under the covers at night. And this is the way that I grew up. And I would like to tell you that the crazy on the farm stopped with the skunks and the roofing and whatever else she brought that day, but it didn't. When she didn't have me up on a roof, she had me down in the basement learning how to make hooch, using a setup that I am also pretty sure by that water heater is also not OSHA approved. So again, I wish that I could tell you that the crazy stopped with the hooch and the skunk on the roof, but it didn't because these are my brothers. She would go on to adopt 5 of us, and it was on this farm that we lived below the poverty line on a teacher's salary, being raised by an artist, having crows and raccoons and skunks as pets. Well, it taught me to see the world differently. It was also here that I learned courage, I learned bravery, and I learned the importance of human connection. And all of that would equip me during one of the darkest times of my life. It's 1999 to 2003, and a problem that I did not ask for, a situation that I did not ask for, and without my permission, my life was irrevocably changing. And it was the love of my community, of the people around me, that despite prayer, despite tears, nothing was changing. But my community, very much like this community, came around me, and card by card, letter by letter, they said, Theresa, you're going to make it. You're going to get through this. We believe in you. Stay strong. And I started putting it into a basket, calling it my blessing basket. It would be the place that I would heal and restore. On the really dark days when I did not think I could take another step, and I was thinking things like, maybe my mom can raise my children, I would sit and reread those cards and remember that people believed in me. And so for them, for that belief, I had to make it. I had to make it. I knew once life and their love put me back together again, I could never thank them for what they did. But I could pay it forward. Our life uniquely equips us to do something in this world in a way that no one else can do. I don't know what it's like to be poor in Ghana or Burkina Faso. I do know what it's like to be poor. And I know what it's like to be trapped in conditions beyond your control. I was uniquely equipped to change that for thousands of people around the world. Over the past 20 years, through conscious leadership, my team and I have pioneered a model that ends extreme poverty, and it is now our organization's name, 10 by 3. And it's done through human connection, which I learned on that farm.
টেন বাই থ্রিকে জানাবো যে আমি যে কাজ করে আগে উন্নতি করেছি, ভ্যান কিনেছি, সাইকেল কিনেছি ছেলেপেলের পড়াশোনার জন্য, কটা কবুতর কিনেছি, মাঠে একটু ধান করেছি, আবার আগেতে অনেক স্বাবলম্বন হয়েছি আমি, তাই 10 বাই 3কে অনেক ধন্যবাদ।
10 by 3 me va mia be anyin lugo demo wa alu voiture mo wa mia dan ko nu ya tsɔvea kpe be nyui ɖe ke be ŋkɔdede le me ne mi enu gbogbo ɖewoa te batri tɔdzi ne mi bo ele wɔtsa ne mi wa ekpɔtɔ egba le wɔ gbeke vɔ ne ya ma de me ya ne me ba dze wa ma mia kpɔ ŋkɔgbededo ko ma ta
10/3 কে আমি এইটুকুই বলবো ম্যাডামকে যে ম্যাডাম যদি আমার এই কাজটা না দিত তাহলে আমি জীবনে মনে হয় বাঁচতেই পারতাম না আমি অনেক কিছু করতে পারছি যেমন ধরো ছাগল করেছি যেমন কবুতর করতে পারছি যেমন খরগোশ করেছি যেমন গরু করেছি 10/3 কে যারা সাহায্য করেছে আমি তাদের সহ সবাই ধন্যবাদ দিই
bannange nebaza nnyo bakama baffe abatuwa emirimu mwebale nnyo mwebalire ddala okutubeezaawo mwebale nnyo mwebale ddala okutuwonya ennaku mwatuwonya okukaaba mwatuwonya okwegayirira abasajja twabeegayiriranga n'ologoye naye nga tebalutuwa naye okuva 10/3 lwe yajja bannange mwebale nnyo mwebalire ddala mukama abawe omukisa
It's now your turn. You have been uniquely equipped to run the businesses that are changing the face of the Great Lakes Bay region. How can you use your unique position to create a culture of unity in this region and within the lives of those who work for your businesses? You've been entrusted with a very important purpose, and that is the unity of the team members that are carrying out your vision every day. Angie, if you'll please start our clock. You've got 5 minutes. All righty, and our time is now up. So go ahead and wrap those conversations. I've seen some really good ones going on at your tables. And who would like to share the conversation at their table? Heard some very good conversations. I like showered for this, and I don't bite. So at least not. What is this day? What is today? Thursday? At least not on Thursdays. So who would like to share a little bit of the conversation at their table when it comes to conscious culture? All right, we've got one right behind you. Thank you so much.
Hello, Hurley Coleman here. And we had a great conversation at our table. And what really resonated was the fact that it's true that everybody's own unique experiences literally pours out of them. So when you're having a conversation, you articulate your thoughts based on you. And that's the wonderful thing about it. I wrote down something. I said, my pain, my success, my past has built us for this moment. And I think that resonates because those are the things that makes us unique. And that experience, you're able to translate in the things that you do wherever you go. It makes that collective just that much more special.
Wow, let's give him a round of applause. That was beautiful. Anybody else want to share? We have a little extra time here, so anybody else? Passionate. What I love about what you said is that we do bring that to the table. And you know, the Great Lakes Bay region is starting to heal because of the efforts of many of you in this room. You are in a very powerful position as leaders within your company, and it starts when we start to heal the people within our walls, and then we can start to heal our community. And so I think the mantra that you just gave us there, we should have that printed because that's really, really beautiful. Anybody else before we go to our final question? I will take that as a no. All right. I believe that one of the measures of being a conscious leader is how we respond to our stakeholders when we have made a mistake. We're human, they're going to happen. From the first day of 10x3, I insisted that every single one of our artisans sign their basket. It was my proof. Remember, I was raised by an artist. The signature meant everything, and it was proof that real hands had actually made that product. It's important for me to stop here and tell you, poverty kept me from an education. I've never been to college. I only have a high school degree, though now an honorary degree, which made me very happy. That was a big day for me. It came from Washington University in St. Louis. It's a very well-renowned college, and I could have never afforded to go to a college like that. And so it was a powerful day for me. And because I never had a formal education, I didn't realize that there were rules to international development. I didn't realize that there were rules that I would have been taught in school about how to end poverty. And as a result, I broke every one of them. And that resulted in our pioneering formula, which is 10 by 3. Here's how the formula works. We pay our artisans 2.5 times fair trade. Remember, I grew up in poverty and I knew that aid was not enough or fair trade was not enough. So it's 2.5 times fair trade. We guarantee that we'll buy at least 10 of their products a month. The first thing the artisan does is stabilize her family. Children get fed, they get put back into school, people get medical care. And then the next thing that happens at about 9 months in, she'll start her first small business. It's typically the ones that are the cheapest to start, like chickens, ducks, etc. Then her second business will get going. It's a little bit more expensive. It's typically crops or something that requires a little bit more capital. And then by the time she starts her third business, it's now a cost-intensive product, which is typically a cow. Now, our artisans will go through between 5 and 8 businesses before they actually get 3 that stick. And so it's important that 10 by 3 continue to hold them well, buying their baskets, paying these incredible wages so that they have enough extra working capital to start these businesses. And by the way, it's very important to note, they're not going into debt doing it. This is money they receive straight to their hand. It is not a microloan. It is cash to them, so they're not beginning their businesses riddled in debt. So eventually, the artisan no longer needs 10 by 3's help. She sustainably is on her own out of poverty, and then they graduate. The secret sauce of the model is the 3. It gives our artisans no single point of failure. Each one of those businesses are producing an average of 5 streams of income. This is just an example of a few. This is not even the full list of the streams of income that they can get from a cow. This creates generational wealth, and it propels our artisans out of poverty. To date, under the 10 by 3 formula, more than 8,000 artisans have graduated. They've started over 40,000 small businesses around the world. And those small businesses are generating a staggering 135,000 and growing streams of income. This is a model that works, it works decisively, and it is sustainable. And it all starts with just weaving a basket, which, as I said from the very beginning day, I required each artisan to sign. But over the years, I began to notice that that signature looked a lot like that signature. And wait a minute, this person signed with a line, and oh my goodness, this person put a flower. Isn't that cute? This one wrote a sun. And I realized something was going on with these signatures. And as I stood under this very baobab tree in Ghana, watching a payment session, it all came flooding. I watched as a woman's baskets had been approved. She was handed the stickers to sign, and she was given a pen. And as the pen came toward her, everything for me just went into slow motion. She just shook her head no. And I watched as a man took the pen and began to sign her name. Through my white Western lens, I never considered the fact that our artisans did not know how to write their name. I believe the measure of a conscious leader is what we do when we realize we've screwed it up. And man, had I done so in a colossal way. Here I was forcing them to sign the basket in order to get their money, and yet they couldn't do it. And so what I had unknowingly done is put them in a place where they were not dignified. I'd exposed this lack of education, putting them in a vulnerable position. So, one artisan at a time, we began to teach thousands of women how to write their name for the very first time. And here you even see she was told how to hold the pen. On your table are little baskets. If you look, every single one, or most of them, will have a signature. That is the very signature of the artisan who made that product, which we then figured out how to digitize, how to put to their profile. And on the back of every single one of those cards is a unique ID code where you can actually meet your artisan on a deeper level. You can write them a letter. And despite language and technology barriers, we're going to make sure that they write you back. We're connecting the most unlikely people around the world. But if I had not leaned into that moment of caring and holding well my stakeholders, this would have never have happened. I'm going to share with you in a minute how powerful this moment was for our artisans. It radiated beyond anything I could have ever thought or imagined. But now it's your turn. The Great Lakes Bay region is your stakeholder. It's where you do your business. It's where your families live, work, and play. It's where your employees do the same. How can you create more value for the region through your conscious leadership? Again, Angie, if you'll please give us 5 minutes on the clock, and then we'll hear from the room. You can start now. All righty, that's Angie's timer. And you know the drill. What table would like to share out? And if not, I'll pick one. So who would like to share the great conversation about stakeholder orientation at their table? Any volunteers? All right, great. Thank you, table 14.
I'll share it. I'm J.W. Fisher with the Fisher Companies. And we give a lot of our resources to different things, but what we concluded is that we need to give more of our personal time to a lot of these things. And I serve on some things, but I'm hereby volunteering these people to start serving on things.
Woohoo! That's awesome. Next gen,
really,
that's great.
It's the personal time and effort that makes the difference. And so I think that's been the gap that we all kind of concluded we're missing here. And so you're going to start seeing some of these people more often.
All right, we're going to hold you accountable. That's awesome. Let's give him a round of applause. Any other table wants to share? If not, I'm going to pick one more. All right, back over here in the corner.
Great morning, everyone. Ricardo Rezio and Cass Ferris. We represent Morley Companies. And we're talking about basically be the idiot. Simon Sinek talked about being the idiot in the room and just ask the questions and be curious. But to be the idiot, you got to have some confidence in yourself to be able to point out and say, hey, I'm not really understanding. To be the idiot, you also have to have somebody create a safe space for you. So we want to be that type of leader. We want to create safe spaces for people that allow mistakes to happen so that we can learn from that, and that also give people a sense of curiosity, opening doors to a vision and making sure that vision is clear to those that follow you. And then we were just sharing about a recollection of a video of the dancing man, and it's a park, and it's a music going on, and this man just stands up and starts flailing his arms and starts dancing. And then another person joins, and then another person joins, and pretty soon you have a huge crowd of people just dancing. And the speaker said, it's not really the first idiot that stands up and does this dancing, it's the first follower. And there's a lot of power in that first follower, so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create other followers, that first follower. Thank you.
Wow, that's brilliant. Fantastic. All right, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you guys for your sharing. Each of you in this room have the power to elevate the Great Lakes Bay region through your businesses. And you never know that when you look at a simple detail like I did with the signatures, what doors it's going to open. So I hope today is leaving you in reflection. And I promised you a deeper look at when we held our stakeholders well, what kind of change that resulted in the world.
I am happy to share my story with the world, especially those who buy my baskets. No one ever asked for my signature before. No one except 10 by 3. When I saw my name on the paper, I was really happy. That was the very first time I even wrote my name. It makes me happy that the world is hearing my story. I consider that a big achievement. Many people will see my picture, especially those who buy my baskets. When 10 by 3 asked for my signature, I felt bad because I thought I would embarrass myself since I can't write. I felt really happy when I saw my name on the paper. That was the first time I had written my name by myself. I felt more confident in myself after writing my name. I also want you to know 10 by 3 helps us care for our families, even though we have no formal education. Every difficult thing requires trying. I tried and I was able to write my name. After writing my name for the first time, I became more confident. I don't stress out when I sign my baskets. When I saw my name on the paper, I was happy. I did not know I could write my own name. 10 by 3 is the reason for my happiness. Before 10 by 3, I could not sign land documents. I also could not sign my children's test results because I did not know how to write my name. Now I do not hesitate. I can write my name and that makes me very, very happy. I spent 10 to 12 days practicing writing my name. I practiced at my sister's house. If I didn't get it right, she smacked me until I learned how to write my name.
Very good. Great. Good, Theresa. Good.
My goodness. I hope that your heart is as full at the moment as my heart is full for Theresa's message, for her example of conscious leadership, and for the change that she is encouraging us to bring to the world, to our organizations, to our community, and to ourselves. I know that we shared a lot of really powerful conversation at our table around how our conscious leadership and our conscious culture and stakeholder orientation move in a circle, and it starts, well, it really starts at the smallest circle, at the me level. And what we're inviting you to do is expand that to the we level and then to the us level. And just imagine the power of possibility that ripples out when we can lead from those spaces. So the first thing I would like to do is deeply thank you for your work in the world and your work here in our community today. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. The next thing I would like to do is ask you, I'm sorry, I stuck a mitt in my mouth right in the wrong time before I came up here, excuse me. What I'd like to take is a moment for you to consider the greatest gift you received so far this morning. And while you're considering that, also bring any questions you might have to the table for Theresa while we have a few extra minutes with her. So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to just think into that. What is the greatest gift you received? One of mine was, we don't want to be a public success and a private mess. That was a really powerful reminder for me. So think it through individually, share at your table for a moment if you'd like to. Then we'll welcome a few feedbacks and then some questions for Theresa. Thank you. And though way too brief, I'm going to bring your attention back to the room, to this portion of the room. Is there anybody who'd like to share out their greatest gift with the room this morning? Any takeaways? I'm sorry. Thank you, Beth.
It's probably, there it is, okay. It's probably the simplest thing that occurred at the very end for me, and that was the power of your name. We all have brands in our businesses, and this is people's personal brand and what they represent, and just that simple, I now have a name that I can write and make my place, my imprint in this world, was very powerful for me.
Thank you for that, Beth. Acknowledgement of who we are and the power and the ability to take a loan, to sign a document, to make a paper, or, a transaction. So powerful. Thank you. Any other greatest gifts or takeaways or questions for Theresa while we have some time with her? Yes.
I'm assuming that this basket at the table is intended as a gift for us to be able to take with us. Part of it that I'm hopeful for is because it can be a reminder for me. Been really passionate about trying to help those that are struggling in poverty in our area, and really focused on the east side of Saginaw. And so many that have been in a disadvantaged situation. This basket is just going to remind me every day to be looking for the opportunity to invest in others, to help them to thrive.
Thank you, that's beautiful.
Thank you. Do we have another?
Gotcha.
Oh, thank you.
Hello, I'm Kim Norris from Glasstender. Our table, big takeaway for us was that I think sometimes we think that we have to be a lot more than just ourselves, more educated, more experienced, more of this, more of that, to be able to give back and make a difference, and that's was our takeaway.
Thank you for that. Beautiful. I will share, we had a great conversation about that too, about, we have these huge organizations, and how do you get 5,000 people on board and on track with this? And the idea that we can start in a team, we can start in a small section and feed that up to the top of the organization instead of always expecting that they're going to feed it down to us is such a powerful way to move forward from here. So thank you for sharing that. I would like to take this moment to invite Gene Pickelman back up to the stage. He's going to share a little bit more with you about the baskets on your table. And we also invite you, if you have the head and the heart to do so today, to take a moment to scan the QR code on your screen. And we would love to give back to Theresa and her artisans and that organization by generously giving to the 10 by 3 organization as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Theresa. Wow, it was awesome. Thank you for just sharing your heart and your wisdom and how you can impact people, organizations, stakeholders. What a terrific job. My heart of gratitude to you. Yes, Dan, you are right. Theresa has generously donated those small baskets as a reminder of the power that you have in making a difference in other people's lives. And that's your gift to you. The larger baskets, you will see there's a name of a company, and those are the 4 tenant partners that have generously given their time and effort to this movement. This is my personal thanks to each of those companies for what you do for the Great Lakes Bay region. So if you notice, the 4 tenant partners, you know who you are. Most of the baskets are going to be at your table, or if not, they're probably close by. So those names, they're all marked out. So please enjoy them. So thank you so much. And, there's many ways, as we take a look at maybe supporting movements, we all have a lot to give to many organizations locally and nationally and so forth. But this is a special project. One way is to make a contribution. The other is just go to their website and buy the products. They're wonderful gifts to people. And if someone has blessed you, it's a great opportunity to take a blessing basket and give it to them and let them know how much you care. So with that, I think we stand adjourned for a few minutes. And unless there's any other further questions for Theresa. If not, we'll move forward. Thank you.
Well, please join me in giving Theresa one more round of gratitude and thank you. In an unusual turn of events for us, we are a little ahead today. So I invite you all to take about a 10-minute break, grab some refreshments, use the restroom, and when we come back, we will be inviting Frankenmuth Credit Union and Vickie Schmitzer to the stage to share their journey with us. Thank you.
Great. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mark Sauter. I've been part of this initiative actually since the inception in 2018, along with a lot of team. I'm on the Growing as a Conscious Organization sub-team that tries to help organizations apply some of what you've heard here. You'll hear more about that in a little bit. But what we're going to do now is kind of make a strategic segue in the agenda in terms of what you challenged as leaders is what you heard for the first 45 minutes, hour today, was how your organizations can make an impact to the communities you serve, either locally or internationally. It's a great opportunity. It's a blessing that you all carry, on your shoulders, if you will. But we contend you also have a second side agenda, and that is how you're running the internal operations of your organization. Sometimes the internal strife and challenge is even more challenging, and it actually takes us away from what we could do externally because we're dealing with all those internal fires and battles and cultural issues and employee issues and all that kind of stuff. So when we think of conscious organizations, we think of it in two sides. Is that external face, the kind of impact we want to make to the world, but it's also the kind of internal face of the kind of culture that we want to foster. Okay, and so in that light, what we want to do is turn this over. I'm going to introduce Vickie Schmitzer here in a minute and kind of tell the story of Frankenmuth Credit Union, who kind of picked up this ball a couple years ago and has actually helped to embody some of the tenets that you were walked through Theresa's presentation more deeply into their organization. And specifically, what I want you to listen for is how they use the next generation of leaders to do that. Okay, so Vickie's going to tee it up and open it up in terms of why this was important to her, why it was important to Frankenmuth Credit Union. But she's going to then turn it over to a steering committee, which we'll have some questions with, which actually what I want you to listen for is how they now own it, how that next generation owns this continued legacy of what Frankenmuth Credit Union has been all about. Does that make sense? Okay, so to introduce Vickie, many of you know her. You can read her bio on page 3. And I'd invite you when the steering committee's up here too, and when Vickie talks, to look at also page 7. Because there'll be some table questions that we're going to ask after the panel discussion. There'll be some table dialogue. So if you familiarize yourself with those questions on page 7, it gives you a little bit of what lens to listen to and what to watch for as you're listening to Vickie's presentation and the panel discussion, because you're going to have a chance to dialogue on it in terms of relevance and applicability to your situation. Okay. And also, I'll have you turn to page 3. I'm not going to recite everything about Vickie. That's on page 3. And no, she doesn't have a pet skunk. So you must have something. But what I'd like to do is just highlight a couple things with Vickie that, for those of you to get a little familiar with her. She started at FCU, and I won't say the year, but she was, I think, employee number 3. Okay, so basically employee number 3 at one site. She answered the phone, swept the floors. She basically did it all. That evolved to becoming the CEO in 2003-ish time frame. And at that point, they had 3 branches, correct? Since then, they now have 31 branches as of today, yeah, and 330 employees. So bottom line, Vickie has grown with FCU. Vickie is FCU in many respects. She bleeds it. And my understanding of when they got involved with this, she'll probably touch on it with her comments, is the fact that, you know, there's not always going to be Vickie. And what could Vickie do to make sure that what was built over that progression of years remains and continues to grow and continues to develop? So that was kind of the priority, I believe, that went into to having this story be told. So again, listen to Vickie through that lens. Vickie will then, when she's done, after about a few minutes, she'll introduce the steering committee. They'll come up, we'll have a little bit of a panel dialogue, and then we'll turn it over to the tables and have some dialogue there. Okay, with me? Let's welcome Vickie.
Thank you, Mark. So between everything that's been said today, I think that I can just introduce the steering committee. I would like to say good morning on this National Day of Prayer. Pretty special occasion when we realize what many of our higher purposes are. All right, how did I first get introduced to the concept of conscious capitalism? I belong to the Frankenmuth Noon Rotary Club, and Gene Pickelman was a speaker at our Rotary Club, and I could feel the passion in his voice for something, and I had no idea what he was talking about. Conscious capitalism. Okay, conscious. I'm conscious. Capitalism, I think that's a bad word, or is it a good word, or I don't know, but I called Gene up after the meeting, and he went into a whole bunch of detail on the 4 tenets, and he piqued my interest. When he was talking, I thought, that's what we already do. We already do at Frankenmuth Credit Union all of the things that you're talking about. We definitely lead with purpose. And so I took him on as coming to some meetings and hosting some meetings at the credit union, and even the urge to be a board member of Conscious Capitalism. And I thought, this is a pretty neat way that we can make a wave out in our greater Bay region so that more people get what this is all about. So we believe in making a difference in the lives of others in a way that you may never know about. One of the things that I think about a lot that I heard somewhere along the way is that you talk about things at work, the good things that you want to do in the community, and then that employee goes home and shares that with their family, the good things that you can do for yourself, for your friends, for other people in the community. And then that child goes to school the next day, and they start sharing things that they heard at home. And it's all about just making that small difference in any way that you can to make us a better community and just a better place to be. We are out in the community. That is one of the things that before you're hired at Frankenmuth Credit Union, you make that commitment that you're going to be a volunteer, you're going to be out in the community, and that you are going to be giving back. So what went through my mind as a CEO that made me think I really want to bring this conscious capitalism effort into the credit union? And it was the fear of, I am in the winter of my career at Frankenmuth Credit Union, and I've worked so hard to instill all of that volunteerism and just doing the right thing each and every time. And is that going to be lost once I leave? And that honestly is my greatest fear. Not that I have any fear that somebody can do my job, because I am sure they can. But the difference that Frankenmuth Credit Union has made and what we stand for, I just would like the employees of the future to also be thinking of that. I want our successful credit union culture to transfer to future leaders, which is doing the right thing each and every time. Whenever you get to a crossroads and you wonder what you should be doing, you can look in the mirror and say, what is the right thing to do? And you will always be guided in the right way. The ability to get people from the me to the we, and that was talked about earlier, treating others as we want to be treated, just to truly care and lead with your heart. Ms. Norris, you talked about being smart. You know, all of us have a head in business, but do you have a heart in business? Our greatest capital is our employees, and we want to make sure that they know each and every day how important they are in the organization. And we always try to keep those conscious capital principles in the forefront of their mind. We have all staff meetings twice a month, and we have a conscious capitalism moment at each one of those staff meetings. So how are we going to put this into our organization so that it lives into perpetuity? We chose a group of 24 emerging leaders, and first of all, we had to have lessons on what is this conscious capitalism, and the ideas on how they were going to carry this out into the organization for years to come. We were talking about proud moments, and that is one of my proud moments, just to hear what all of the ideas were that these emerging leaders came up with to share into the future. So we wanted to make sure that we had a cross-section of our company and that all departments were represented. We wanted to give others a chance to be involved and share new ideas, to have diversity, have the ability to create and feed up through the organization, and that's some other words that we heard today. So Franklin Credit Union does have less than 1% turnover, and I definitely think that that is because of the culture that we have. We do give the opportunity to share and be involved, and our culture is real. It isn't by chance. You definitely have to work to keep that. I love synergy and the idea of collective intelligence and to be that powerful force for good. So with that, I would like to ask my steering committee to come on down. All right, starting on the far end, Donna Haubensticker is in our accounting department. Holly Britton is head of projects. John Wyrau is our consultant. Cheryl Howell is in analytics, and Jenny Bickle is in marketing. So team, take it away. Thank you.
No chair. No, I'm good. I'm going to kind of be the neutral facilitator here to keep them on track and all that kind of stuff, and pose a few questions and kind of get them beginning the dialogue. But in many respects, I am invisible because you guys have done the effort. But I would like to just kind of start. You can all kind of chime in. I think you've got a couple mics that you'll have to pass back and forth. Are they all turned on? Switch flipped up? Okay. The first thing is, Vickie touched on it a little bit, but what are some of the conscious steps, the early steps that kind of brought this movement into the organization? What were some of the distinct steps you took? And the reason I ask that is many of us in this room hear concepts like this on a stage, and then we leave afterwards, and we have this big question mark of how. And so what we're trying to do is make that a safe ground in terms of there are conscious, intentional steps that can be taken in your organization to kind of bring what you're hearing today forward in very practical manner. So with that, I turn it over to maybe John, you start, and then pass it on.
I think the coolest thing that started us off actually was when we had Mark come in actually to facilitate a workshop, and Vickie had first, and I'm going to mess these numbers up a little bit, but there was a smaller group of us that had gone through it, and it fostered so many ideas and so much kind of unity in thought that we're like, okay, scratch this, we need a bigger group and we're going to start over again. So we had Mark do the exact same workshop again with a much larger group. We went from like maybe 8 of us to 24 of us that really then said, okay, this is how we get it fully into the culture. And from there, I'll pass it to one of you two, because we made it our own a little bit. It wasn't just, okay, let's put everything into these 4 buckets of the 4 tenets, which was our guiding principle through the workshop. But we also created our own sub-teams based on the acronym of success. I see Jenny has notes, so here you go.
Leave it to the marketing person to be having cheater notes. So we broke it into groups of stakeholder satisfaction, unity, communication, culture, empowerment through education, students for life, and significance. And from that smaller group, we felt that it was important to have these groups to focus on. And then there was little subcommittees that worked on each of those key factors.
I remember when we first started, as Vickie had mentioned, we heard all about this and we had to get trained and educated. What does this all mean? And as Vickie said, I thought as well, we already do this, don't we? Why do we need a special effort for something we're already doing? But by doing that, we've been able to pass it down to as many in the organization as we can. And as Vickie said, to foster that, to make it part of our everyday life. So when all of us here are gone, it's going to continue at the credit union as well.
Yeah, and I don't know if you caught it, but the acronym that Jenny alluded to there, it spells success. So we wanted to build these teams around being successful, and that we were going to move forward with each of the teams. We each divided and brought something different to the table, and we presented those to our entire credit union, our entire company. And in that presentation and on that day that we did that, we then asked for ideas, which we are still working through today. I mean, we got so many ideas from our staff on how we can continue to improve and perform better and lead through the conscious capitalism that we're still working through them today. So it's awesome.
I would just add, before the whole staff event, the 24 group each came up with projects that represented their letter out of the success acronym. So that got so much more buy-in because it was that little team of 3's original idea, something that they could foster. And I think we had them come up with 3 and then kind of hone it down into the one that they really wanted to do. And then, of course, we'll come back and do that again to have them go back to their other 2 projects. But it just really created their buy-in, their ownership of that idea. And I think it just brought out more success because they wanted to bring their baby to life and share it with others. So after we completed a round of projects, then those get shared with all of the staff through either videos or live sharing during the meeting, and just helps everyone to see that your ideas are important to us too. And like Cheryl said, then taking that, gathering the ideas down to the whole staff, I think just creates so much more buy-in from everyone. Everyone wants to participate in this. It makes it more exciting and, makes them feel like they're really valuable to the organization and their contributions really matter.
Yeah, let me jump on that last point. As far as buy-in, all those this issue of change management, how do you successfully implement change? The idea is cheap. The idea is maybe 20% of a good change initiative. Is being able to generate this kind of buy-in and support and ownership for that idea. That's really where change management comes in. And so when you hear these kind of words, that's what the real connection is. We all have ideas of what we'd like to do in our organization. Nothing new, I believe, came from that process. Those ideas have been percolating for years. The issue was getting the buy-in. And with that in mind, I'd like you to kind of touch a little bit deeper on that. You alluded to all staff meetings. And how did this move beyond the 24? And how did it get more of the staff and the entire organization involved?
We have in-service, we have all staff meetings like Vickie had mentioned, but we also do in-service sessions where it's either a half-day or whole-day event. And I think now as we grow, we want to make sure that we're still the small hometown financial institution that we've been for so many years. And even though we're bigger, we're still that. And so to have those face-to-face in-service meetings where we can connect as people and make sure that we're all on the same goal. The last meeting we incorporated in it, it was a presentation from an organization that does amazing things for foster children. in our area. And I think incorporating that, conscious capitalism isn't just being nice to each other. It's being nice to your fellow staff, yes, to your employee or your members or customers that you serve, and it's also your third-party vendors. And that's the thing that when Mark did the session with us, I thought, that's a huge part of it. Think of all the different people you work with and how, because we've been good to those third parties, that's turned around where they've ended up coming back to do their banking services with us because they know they were someone we can trust. And so with those in-service meetings, it's the same way. When you have those interpersonal connections face-to-face, it creates a bond.
I just wanted to say too, like the interpersonal connections that you get at those meetings, that just even the feeling in the room is something different. It's something to be desired because we don't get that anymore. So many meetings can be done so easily via Zoom or through the phone or through even an email. You can make it as impersonal as you want to, but when you get to be in person and really share a space with somebody and you can actually rub an elbow and get to know that person, that's what really makes those meetings special, and I think really creates that sense of community with the staff and making it feel like this company isn't just Frankenmuth Credit Union, this is our family.
And a couple of my favorite moments going through these different sessions, and we have the group of us 24, we meet once a quarter, the steering committee meets as well just to make sure things are pushing forward. But a couple of these events where, like the first time we went through, and it was almost like this start, stop, continue process with the 4 tenets. It's like, what have we been doing that fits within these tenets that really says who Frankenmuth Credit Union is? And it was this really heartfelt moment. You could see people even like tearing up a bit, like, man, we really do live and breathe this higher purpose. And here's some ideas on how we can get moving forward. And it created this sense of unity amongst the 24 of us where we're just like, oh, I didn't even know that story. I didn't even realize that's what your department has been doing. And I didn't know that was something we have done in the community. And it just really, and then like afterwards when we said, okay, now that we've done this, what has this process done for you? And that was the feedback we've gotten. We're like, man, it made us a tighter group. And even when we did it for the all staff at the in-service day, we had people go around and take a microphone, and there was over 300 people in the room telling stories about how they've experienced Frankenmuth Credit Union living up their higher purpose. And there were so many tears in that room. Everyone was going around like, wow, this is really cool. And we were just able to bring it forth with this structure of conscious capitalism, what we've always been doing. And I think it's brought everyone closer in the smaller group and in the larger group as well.
I would just add to that, probably a year in, we asked the 24, does anyone want to be off this committee? Because if you're not getting value out of it, or if it's not a good use of your time, and everyone stayed on. So that was a good sign to see that people really truly were buying into it. They weren't just going there because they had to or being told to. It was out of their own will.
Yeah, let's drill into that. What they touched on a little bit too is when you think of the 4 tenets, they're not rocket science. Purpose, culture, leadership. We've had those words around, but when you have people trying to suggest ideas without that narrative, without that continuity, it's like a bunch of BBs hitting you as executives in your organization. It's just a whole bunch of ideas, but it's hard to process through those ideas. And so I think what they articulated was the tenets gave that kind of context to be able to share ideas and prioritize those ideas and get shared buy-in for those ideas. So it was nothing new other than providing that kind of linkage and buy-in and shared narrative amongst our organizations. That's perfect. Angie mentioned something about me, we, us. You start with the me and you affect the we, and then that affects the broader us. And many of us see a lot of people kind of bitching about the us. We're always talking about we want to change the world, we want to change our culture of our organization. This process brought it back to more the we. How are we affecting the we, the 24 in your broader organization? But now I'd like each one of them to touch on the me. How does this process affect them at the me level, the individual level? How does it change their perspective as a leader, as a person?
I can start because this one is easy for me. My background is accounting and finance, so I'm all about the numbers. What is it going to cost? What is the benefit you're going to get out of it? In all my years at the credit union, one of the biggest areas that I've grown in was the people aspect, the personal side of it. Because I was more coming at it from the business side, and again, the numbers. And Vickie has done such a great job of building up the employees, not just to learn about the industry that we were in, but to grow us as a person. So from when I started at the credit union years and years ago to where I am now, I am a different person because of the culture that I've been exposed to, the leadership that we've had, and I've come to learn that it is about the people. It is not about the numbers, and that's, like I said, a very big change for me because I was all about, the dollar signs, but to see the people and as they grow and through this process, it wasn't just the higher ups that were doing something and then telling the others. It was more of the us and then the we of the whole organization, that all those 300 some people knew they could contribute, and we were hoping we would have buy-in, that everybody would feel, yes, I can make a suggestion, I can contribute, I can have my idea. It's not being forced on me from the people above me. And then again, knowing that we're not always going to be here as those people come up in the industry, that they would have that already built inside them and then pass it on to those after as well.
I would touch on, I think Vickie kind of alluded to this, when you become an employee, you agree that you're going to do some volunteerism. And I think a lot of places might have programs like that. But it's a minimum of, we call them hearts. You have to get 2 hearts every year as part of your accountabilities of being an employee. And it can be all different various activities that actually Jenny's team, they do a great job of finding all sorts of opportunities to spend your time. And, it probably kind of starts out as a burden. I know for me, I was like, oh, one more thing that I have to do, right? But over time, you start to, those are the fun times you get to go be with your coworkers and do something that's meaningful. And then the part that Vickie alluded to, it trickles down to your family. Like sometimes you can take your family to events with you to do it with you, but they see that that's something that is actually, you have to dedicate time to that. It's we have to do this, not it would be nice to do that. It's that important to us that we're gonna make sure we're giving time to some kind of volunteer project. And it starts to go beyond your required 2 things to, maybe it's at your church or at your kid's school or something. It can be something more personal to you, but it's really fostering volunteerism as a we have to do, not a we can do that or we might do it.
For me, it's helped keep everything intentional. And it's helped me in the selection of my priorities and what I'm working on, going through the lens of, okay, what I'm working on now, how is this contributing to our higher purpose? And then thinking up and down the stakeholder map, like how is this impacting every single person that I might be interacting with? Is this contributing towards our intentionality in our culture? Is this contributing towards the intentionality of our leadership? So it's almost like a focus lens of making sure I'm everything that I do every moment for Franklin with Credit Union, am I somewhere aligned with at least one, if not all of those 4 tenets?
And I have to agree with everything that all 3 of you have said. I think Franklin Credit Union has for sure made me a better person with all of the growth opportunities that they give us. But one of the biggest things that I take away, I think, from conscious capitalism to help with this is the importance of letting staff know the why, letting everyone know the why. Like, why are we doing these things and why are they happening or what is happening? One of the initiatives, Donna, your guys' team put it together where when we're out in the community, if a community member sees us out and about, they take a picture of us and they can be entered into a drawing to win a prize, some cash prize. And without the word of mouth and getting that out through our staff and letting everybody know that that's happening, it wouldn't go anywhere. So it's wonderful that those things and that we can relay that kind of stuff. And it's important that our staff know what's going on and we know what's going on with our staff. So reciprocating that information and the importance of meeting. I meet one-on-one with my staff member once a week. We talk about what we have going on, what we're doing for the week, and just making and carving out that personal time to find out, okay, these are the things you have going on, this is what I have going on, and making that conscious effort to make that happen every single week.
And just to wrap that up, I think that for me and for all our staff, I feel with community involvement, for one, is that the connections you make. Of course, you get to work with your coworker in a surrounding that's not normal from the workplace, so that's neat to have that experience. But it's the connections with the other volunteers that are from other organizations, and to have that time with them also, to bring your table of folks that you know to a broader palette.
Great. We're going to jump into a couple of examples just to give you a flavor of what a few of the projects were that they've launched. But before I go there, I got a question specifically for John, and kind of looking at it from this audience's perspective. It seems overwhelming to think that you guys formed 7 teams, and each team came up with ideas and projects and recommendations to the board and to Vickie. How did you narrow that down? It just seems too noisy. What did you do?
I think what's neat about the setup is Vickie's involvement, but not constant interjection, for lack of a better word. She is on the steering committee. So as we're deciding which projects to work on or how to continue to keep it in the organization, she definitely has a voice and has some direction there. But then that steering committee kind of trickles down to that larger group of 24. And then from that, it's, putting projects out of the group of 24 and into the frontline staff that are working it. So it actually doesn't require, when you spread the work out and we start everyone with unity and just getting on the same page and the buy-in and get everyone's hearts into it, the amount of time we all have to spend on it is not huge. It was a very light kind of starting. It was some spitfiring of ideas, and then setting up a structure in that it isn't crazy time consuming for Vickie or even for the steering committee, but just some touch points along the way so that we're guides on the side. We're keeping things moving in the right direction, but not having to have a complete control over every little group or every little project. So it started off small and intentional, and it's just kind of spread on its own without tons of time and commitment from everyone from Vickie to the steering committee to the larger group.
Thanks, John. I wanted to touch on that a little bit because this word empowerment scares a lot of us. We think we're giving over the keys to the shop. When you get the next generation involved, they're going to take it off the rails somewhere. And this process actually keeps it on the rails. The executive team still has the control of where this process is going, but it basically has trickled into the next generation and the next generation beyond that. So just kind of wrapping a little bit, if you can each touch a little bit of maybe some project examples that kind of spawn from this.
I've got a couple quick ones just with the specific group that I'm on, Team Significance. A couple projects where they're both video related, having short little 2-minute videos like how to, maybe something specific to the branch or how to do this or a certain product. And what I like about it is that it is not our team that even touches this anymore. We've passed it on to a frontline staff person that just loves making videos like this. And then the next project in the works is very similar, but they're like kind of TikTok type videos or Facebook Reel, whatever you want to say, short little videos for the community and for our members to be put out on social media. And again, that is, we're part of the setting up the guardrails and getting it going, and that's going to be completely passed on to a frontline staff person as well that really enjoys that stuff. So those are 2 things that came up from my group.
Yeah. I'm going to share a couple, not necessarily from my group, but one of the ones that I think has had a huge impact on just everyone is we have videos of getting to know the staff of the branches and the departments. And so those are really neat videos that we get to watch. And that spawned out of one of the conscious capitalism ideas, as well as it seems something very minute, but a calendar where it houses like all of the events that are happening staff-wise, like when we have a MSR meeting or a teller meeting or a supervisor meeting or an all-staff meeting, that they're all housed on one calendar. So maybe you're not part of that group, but you know where that person might be then. So you have an idea of what's happening within the company, and that's been a huge one. People really like that idea of knowing and having the knowledge and the power to be able to go and look to see what's happening and not just guessing about where somebody might be for that morning. So that's kind of a good one as well.
I think one to share just to show some diversity, that it's not, all videos. My group actually expanded on something that Donna does every month. She presents our goals to all of our staff and how we're doing financially. And that can be kind of overwhelming for some people. And so the group that I had, we just broke those down to the very basic level. So kind of like a 101 on how we calculate ROA, or, you know, all the different metrics that we measure, to just kind of, again, get their buy-in so that they understand, like, why are we going over these numbers? Why do they matter to you? Why does it matter to this teller what, you know, our ROA is? So just breaking it all the way down to the most basic level so that everyone can buy in and understand how they're impacting our numbers.
And so my group, or our group, was success. What was my group called? I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What we want to do is stakeholder satisfaction. That's what it is. And we wanted to get feedback from our members. We, years ago, for several years, had a survey option set up that members could give us feedback. And then after time, we kind of let that slide a little bit and went to an online version, which we're not getting the feedback that we want because everybody's sick of being surveyed, right? So now we're working on a solution to get feedback back from our membership again so that we know what's broken, because you can't fix it if you don't know there's a problem there. So that's what our group is working on.
And one of our projects, Cheryl had touched on it, is called Catch Us in the Community. We talked about the volunteer hours that our staff puts in, and we thought, well, that's nice. We're out in the community, and maybe some members see us there, but what happens then? So we started something that if you're out in the community as an employee, maybe you're weeding weeds out of a flower bed, or you're walking in a parade, or you're serving drinks, party on McCarty, whatever it may be. If that member comes up to you and acknowledges you, you exchange words, whatever it may be, warm and fuzzy, that the employees say to that member, you have a chance to win a prize. It's called Catch Us in the Community. Take a picture of me, go to our website and upload it, and you'll be entered into a drawing for the month. So we started that several years ago, and during the winter it's a little bit harder. There's not as many events, but definitely in the summertime we have all these different events, and then again encouraging the members that they could get something out of it as well and try and engage them.
Everybody? Okay. What I like about this is these aren't difficult projects. These are things that are probably thought through for years prior. So it's not an intimidating thing where we're trying to bring more work to you and more effort to you. It's really being able to help you address things that were already priorities that you can now address collectively with kind of a buy-in type of a progression. So I just want to first thank the panel. If we give them a show of hands a little bit here. It's not easy. Now the work goes to your tables is on page 7. I mentioned earlier, there's 3 questions there to kind of reflect on and discuss at your table as far as, irregardless of what size organization you have, 2 people, 330 people, 5,000 people to the next to your audience, discuss kind of a little bit of what you just heard here in terms of how that could affect some of the things that you're struggling with in your organization, things like employee engagement, things like managing change, things like resiliency, things like cooperation, respect, you know, something that's a priority in your organization already, and kind of ask yourself and reflect on these 3 questions of how might this kind of process, this kind of intentional attitude maybe address something that you've already been struggling with. So we'll do that for maybe the next 10 minutes and have 5 minutes of sharing, and then we'll move on to the next section. Thank you. We'll get them. We'll get them. I'm letting everybody finish those last observations or 2. What we're going to do now is I failed to mention at the beginning, or when I introduced the tables, potentially at your table, questions came up, or you had questions for the panel. And I wanted to let you know that talk about it at your table. And then if you do have questions of the panel that was just up here, as we go around, if you have some questions, we can pose it. They've got a microphone. They can answer from their perspective. If you don't have questions, that's okay too. But the whole intent is if you want a conversation to know more from their perspective of what they were sharing, here's an opportunity as one part of this sharing time. The other thing we'd like to do, similar to how you're now getting into the routine, is those 3 questions. You don't have to take them in order. We're not taking them in order. But if anything resonated at your table, any insight that either you shared with the table had that you took away from in context of those 3 questions, this is the kind of sharing opportunity. And what we're trying to do is encourage all of you. The learning is really occurring at your table in that kind of intimate discussion. And the shared learnings that we're trying to create in this room is what we're trying to do with these microphones. So we're not trying to put you on the spot. There's no perfect words to say. It's basically just being able to share some observations that you felt resonated with you that you'd like to share with others. So that's the kind of community we're trying to create here. So with that in mind, first of all, are there any questions for the panel? Anybody have any questions that came out of that? It was real clear. Good. Well, that's good. I'm glad that it tended to resonate. Good job for the panel. If I could give them one more hand, if you will, on that. And those of you who weren't clapping will be on the next panel. Again, going around the room now, just for some observations of those questions that you were just dialoguing, as far as would what you heard here be applicable or relevant within your organization, or is it totally hooey, in perspective? And again, share criticisms too, as far as some of these processes. I'm sure some of you have tried these things and they failed. So I'd look around for some sharing. I'll wait, unlike Angie. I'll wait. There, okay. Here comes the microphone. If you could stand up too, please.
Yeah. So I do a couple things, but I work with the Midland Business Alliance on talent and business initiatives, workforce development, and people are looking for more transformational factors in their work and less transactional factors. So I want to be enriched, and I want to be able to connect my values and personal meaning and impact and all those things. And if I can make those correlations, you'll get my engagement. If you can't do that, I'll quietly quit, or I'll actually quit. And then secondarily, the other point is that we're taking a look at being able to think about organizations becoming less hierarchically aligned, up and down, and more flat. And that's exactly what you're doing, is delegating and elevating, automating and eliminating things, and creating empowerment through those things. So those are definitely right on trend, and I'd say that they work, especially with an emerging workforce that is used to getting feedback on things like Instagram or Facebook, and I do something and people like it, or they love it, or they give me an emoji. So in the workplace, people need to be able to make quicker actions to results, and it sounds like you're achieving that too. So I thought that resonated.
Great. Just to make a comment on that too, there's a book out there called The M Factor. It's actually written about millennials. A lot of us say, well, millennials, how do you engage millennials and motivate them? You just touched on actually the essence of that book, is millennials just don't want to come for a paycheck and work 9 to 5 like we all grew up with. They want that kind of transformational opportunity to be heard, to be listened to. They don't want to wait 10 or 15 years in an organization to eventually have an audience that listens to them. They want to be heard within 15 days of working for an organization. But once you understand that that's what's driving the future workforce, what you just touched on was a perfect observation. Another, over here.
One of the things that stood out to me was, a lot of times people take on culture as something we talk about or that we communicate to the team. The intentionality of being your culture is something that really stands out. And we talked about that a lot at the table here. Like, you're out in the community, you're doing the work, you're intentional about being the leader or being the person who demonstrates who you say you're going to be in the world. And I think that's really powerful.
Others? What you just touched on, Mark, was it came out with Julie Molesky from Next Year too, is the culture is not 5,000 people, the culture is me. In terms of if we can bring it down to that level where we all take ownership for what you just said as far as what we're trying to become. But to do that, you need that kind of shared narrative where people can kind of connect with it and describe them, because we don't want a bunch of individuals just describing them from their language. That's very hard to hear. That's just a bunch of noise. But we want individuals to explain them, but in the context, some type of shared context that's interpretable. And that's what can create the communication flow up and down your organization, is you're giving that kind of context through the use of these lenses, these tenets and stuff. A couple more observations if we could. I know that table back in the back has been extremely beneficial as far as some of the insights. What do you got to share? I told you I was going to let you go.
Harry Micah from HSC. I take two things from it, and it's the two hearts. And so at HSC, we actually have a volunteer board, and so you can see all the things that we're doing in the community, but taking it one step further and saying, as our leaders, when I think about leaders, it's the 1,400 people that work inside our fence line, but are we committed to 2 of those events a year, right? And at HSC, we actually have subcommittees that are focusing on, just employee involvement. And when I think about that, am I committed? My personal commitment is, do I go to the internal HSC things that are part of our culture twice a year? Am I prioritizing those events So I'm connecting with the people that aren't on the second floor of HSC, that aren't on the main campus of HSC, but are out in the folks. So those are my 2 keys.
Perfect, thank you.
Cheers.
One more? It's been heavy on this side of the room. Let's get somebody on this side of the room.
I just wanted to add something to that we didn't really touch on.
May take a while.
So at one of the events where we were asking all of the staff for input, a lot of people said they wanted more events to spend time together. So we actually had somebody from the group of 24 now that heads up a group where they plan just activities. So it's not mandatory to go. It's just if you want to have more camaraderie with your fellow staff members, then there's certain events. So I know like she did a pickleball tournament, Christmas cookie making, so just fun things. But it was amazing to see how many staff people just wanted to have more events where they could get together and kind of have, you know, like someone plan it and structure it so that they could look forward to those things.
Very relational. Thank you. Anybody else? Andy? Well, okay, first there. Start there. Yeah.
Andy Bethune from TriStar. We're talking about growing our influence in the things we do beyond business. And, you know, the way that TriStar is structured, we do a lot of things where we are involved in the community, and we do it intentionally with our workforce. We also do it by helping our clients. Many of our clients are service organizations, so we might volunteer, we might donate to a particular fundraiser that they have, whatever it might be. But when our new employees come in, everyone is accessible at TriStar. So from our president to the last person that's been hired. So what we do is we have set a culture where everyone's equal and everyone has an opportunity to get engaged because they see others doing it.
Perfect. One more? Over in the corner there.
Really thought I got away.
I see
Coleman.
you.
Thanks, Mark. I forgot to mention Hurley Coleman from Saginaw County Community Action. So we were talking. We had a great conversation. We were talking with John and Marissa and Pastor Chris, and Dan had to step out. But some of the things that we talked about was how do we foster growth within our organizations? How do we encourage growth and development with new staff that are coming up? Even, you know, how do you implement some of these things? And one of the cool things I heard from John over at Yo was that they have a young professionals group. And with this young professionals group, he's able to bring in and get their ideas, bounce ideas off of them, and help them to feel engaged and connect with the organization. And that's some of the things that we're trying to do, even in my organization, as I see some of our leaders preparing to retire, training the next generation of leaders who are coming up, finding the stars, finding those gems within the organization and growing them up and making them ready. So that's hopefully what we will try to do as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Did John include himself in the young professionals? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to be turning it over now. Thank you very much. That was good dialogue, good observations. I think we can all relate with that. Yeah. I'm going to turn it over to Angie to take us to the next little bit of a leg of our journey.
Thank you, Mark. Please just join me in giving Vickie and her team one more round of applause. We're so grateful for leading by example. Thank you. I'm going to take a quick moment to ask you to help us. We're going to engage you and helping us to really understand how we can support you to work just as Frankenmuth Credit Union has done, as Theresa's organization does, and as you'll hear from Bill Dobbins here shortly, to bring this into your organization in a way that takes this off your plate while supporting you at the same time, and also developing your emerging leaders to carry this forth through your organization, top, down, and bottom up. We are hyper aware of the fact that this has got to be an embodiment within the organization, but also that you need support in various ways. So I'm going to ask you to open, in the back of your book, there's a sheet. This table, you might be missing some. I can grab them if you need them. It's a chapter engagement interest form. And if you'll take a moment to just fill out the top for me, I would appreciate it so much. Just add your name, your organization, and so forth. And as I share the engagement opportunities we have available to you, if you will just check the box of the ones that speak to you, speak to your head, speak to your heart, and you believe that we could help you in learning more about the opportunity or coming into your organization to support you through the opportunity, just mark that box for us if you would, please. One of the things I've heard a lot this past year, speaking to 4-tenant partner leaders, is that they want deeper engagement. And so I sat back and I thought, okay, engagement, I feel like we offer so much engagement, but we know that your inboxes get bombarded by Conscious Capitalism, Inc., by our chapter. So I want to just take a moment to really share with you what the engagement opportunities are. On page 8, we have a map, and it's just a really simple map of the journey of a conscious leader. We know you are unconscious, conscious capitalists for the most part. There are organizations everywhere doing great work in their communities. We have some opportunities to lead you to the next step of the map through community workshops and conferences, such as today's events. We have Conscious Capitalism, Inc. hosted virtual events every month, where if you would just like to jump on during your lunch hour to learn a little more about what's going on in the broader organization, then it's a great opportunity for you to hear from some really significant leaders as well. We have a new initiative that we're beginning this year called Business as a Force for Good, and this is an opportunity for our 4-tenant partner leaders to connect with a group of CEO leaders in our community to learn from each other on how they consciously lead within their organizations. I believe TriStar is looking at taking an opportunity to host, and Riemann is looking at taking an opportunity to host. And this is a thing that this is an opportunity where we can work with you to make it whatever you would like it to be, considering who the stakeholders are that you would like to meet within your organization. This could be a coffee and conversation, a lunch and learn, a cocktails and conversation opportunity to just simply invite a small intimate group in to share conversations through a fireside chat with the leader and just spend some time sharing in conscious conversation. So if that is something that you think could benefit you as the leader to either join in one of those Business as a Force for Good events or host a Business as a Force for Good event, please mark that box so we can learn more about the ways we can support you there. One of our key initiatives this year as a chapter was to find ways that we could connect with you more regularly to make sure that we are supporting you through engaged conversations. And in a moment, I'm going to invite a group up, but we have 2 really specific committees that are doing the work to reach out, to connect through conscious conversations with you on a regular basis, one being our Growing Conscious Organizations Committee, and the other being our Growth and Partnership Committee. And that takes us to this dividing line of 4-tenant partners. We know that there are about 3 buckets of conscious capitalists that we have in our community. We collectively are a movement of leaders that are improving the practice and perception of capitalism to elevate humanity. But there are those leaders who are very focused primarily on just ensuring we do better business, right? We just want to elevate the potential of free market enterprise. And then we move into those who are looking for good social impact. These are the leaders who are primarily focused on how their business can be a positive force for the community where they do business and for society as a whole. And then we have this 3rd bucket, and this is our personal and business advancement bucket. And these are the leaders who are primarily focused, like Vickie, on developing and implementing the conscious capitalism tenets to maximize impact for not only their business, but for their closest stakeholders as well. And these are the efforts that we are supporting our 4-tenant partners through and then elevating out to the greater community. So our leaders and our 4-tenant partners, they come together in the ideal of this philosophy, right? They're a movement that believes business is a powerful force for good. And we just invite you to consider if our movement is speaking to your heart and your head today. And if so, we would love to have an opportunity to share just a little more about learning what you're up to in the world, identifying places where you are already conscious capitalists without even recognizing that you're there, or really recognizing it but looking for language around it. And then we'd love the opportunity to support you through. So if becoming a partner in arms with us to carry forth this mission is speaking to your heart, please go ahead and mark that box as well. And then what I would like to do is take a quick moment to bring up, we'll bring Mark Sauter, John Wyrau, Bob Martin, and Samantha Jones up to the stage for a moment. They make up our portions of our committees, and so what I would like them to do is just take a moment to introduce themselves to you briefly, let you know about the work that they're doing behind the scenes with our partner organizations. And then if you're interested in connecting with them, you have a face with a name that you can grab when you're ready to share conversation. Maybe go in front of the chair.
All right, hi everyone. I'm Sam Jones. I am the Executive Director of Partner Shift Network. I operate a nonprofit organization that serves the entire Great Lakes Bay region with workforce supports. On one side, we have our Business Resource Network, which is like the 4 tenants in action. And we serve companies and organizations who are conscious leaders throughout our community and would like their employees to have support, but also recognize that culture is really important in doing that. And on the other side, we have our community-based programs that primarily serve the ALICE population and help them get up and out of ALICE and into self-sufficient situations.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Bob Martin with Applied Innovation. I represent John Lowry, who is the CEO of Applied Innovation out of Grand Rapids, who is very much a conscious leader. I'm very happy to be part of Conscious Capitalism and on the Growth and Partnership Committee. If anyone is interested in learning more about joining Conscious Capitalism and learning more about it and learning more what some of these folks are doing to better our communities, I really feel strongly that more organizations that adopt the 4 tenets of conscious capitalism will make our world a much better place to live. So.
Yeah, I'm John Wyrau, and I'm a consultant with Frankenmuth Credit Union. I'm also co-owner of Rick Olson Seminars, and I've been using this conscious capitalism material and information not only within the Great Lakes Bay region workshops, but also across the state and across the country with the different clients and organizations I work with, because they see the value not only of the community of the organization, but the bottom line success. So work on a lot of organizational development as well as leadership development.
My name is Mark Sauter. I introduced myself a little bit earlier. I was with Dow Corning for a number of years, and then I formed a consulting business called GTP Associates, which Hurley stands for Grow Through People. Okay, so it actually does that. In that context, I then wrote a couple books around the subject of bringing meaning into Monday. So how do we actually create a vibrant, purpose-driven work climate? Because we spend a lot of time at work, we might as well do it there. And what that introduces there, which was evident today, was this concept of a teeter-totter, where many of us have issues that are extrinsic or intrinsic. But we tend to focus a lot on our extrinsic, how we're promoted, our next paycheck, our next opportunity for visibility. And what bringing meaning into Monday was pointing to is the intrinsic side, as far as relationships, sense of purpose, sense of contribution. That's what led my heart to eventually discovering CC about 10 years ago with Gene, where we actually found the how to be able to achieve that kind of glorious vision of bringing meaning into Monday was right there in front of us, and we saw that about 10 years ago. And so I feel honored to be here and actually see this kind of kick in, these other people involved and all that kind of stuff. And so in that context, I help with the growth leadership team as far as leadership coaching, some workshop development, a workshop introduction, moving concepts to practice type concept. So that's the Mark Sauter in me. I also have the opportunity to introduce Mark Maxwell, who's on our team, who's not here. So another Marks, they decided to have me, the hair-lip dog, say it. But Mark was also from Dow Corning, and he worked for about 30 years at Dow Corning in the construction industry. Mark's heart is in leadership coaching, leadership development, trying to help connect our moral lives, our spiritual lives, if you will, to how we actually apply ourselves as secular leaders. And so he's really passionate about that realm, and he's also passionate about this issue of sustainability. You know, how do we create sustainable work climates, work cultures, work communities? And he attributes it back to it's how we lead our people and how we develop our people is kind of the root of creating a sustainable organization.
And for myself, I get to do a little other fun stuff outside of this space as well. And so I work with an organization by the name of Exchange. We are a group of facilitators that help conscious organizations to bridge the gap between reactivity and creativity. So our effort is to develop leaders within, to impact leaders without. And in this time of stress, really what we are doing is working with leaders to support you in leading at the speed of change, which I think most of you could acknowledge is a little bit out of control right now. So if any of this speaks to any of you, please feel feel free to grab one of us either today or just put a note on that form so that we know that we can connect with you and support your next portion of the journey as well. And I'm going to take a quick moment to share with you, we have an upcoming, I get to go to Dallas next, so I fly out for Dallas tomorrow to join in the Conscious Capitalism Conference. It's a return. We haven't had one since prior to the pandemic. So this is just an opportunity, if you ever get the chance to go or to send a team, to gather with an even greater group of like-minded and like-hearted individuals who are working hard to bring conscious capitalism to the world. And for those of you who are CEOs, presidents, and founders, Conscious Capitalism hosts a summit each year. Jean's gone several times, and they call it the CEO Summit. This is an exclusive by invitation opportunity for you to go and gather with some of the top minds leading the organization of conscious capitalism. And so if that's something that is of interest to you, please go ahead and mark that. That's something that we will connect with you on, share your story, and get you engaged at the next level. So what I'm going to ask you to do at this time is to simply take those forms, hand them to it's just like school, hand them to the end of the table. John and Bob, if you wouldn't mind running around, and Sam, and just grab those from each table as they're ready. We're going to have one more quick bio break for refreshment, and then I am excited to welcome Bill Dobbins to the stage next. Thank you. Thank you. At this time, I would like to turn the stage over to Jean Pickleman. So Jean, whenever you're ready.
Okay, can everybody hear us? Okay, give you a second to get into your seats. Andy? All right. We're almost there. Thank you. Okay, last segment. How's everybody doing? All right. You know, it is my extreme pleasure and honor to introduce Bill Dobbins, who is the owner, CEO, and president of Castor Concepts of Albion, Michigan. And let's give him a welcome. Thank you. You know, as you've read Bill's bio, all 3 sentences, that's how humble this guy is. But he's a family man. Many members of his family are involved in the business. He's, as I've learned to get to know him a little bit, he's innovative and he's a strategic visionary, both for his company and for the community. And he's a philanthropist. And so I'm just really excited to have him here today to share his journey, and in particular, how he consciously leads and inspires the people around him. Now, this is amazing. I've known Bill for about 5 years now, I think. 5 years. And today is the first time I've met him in person. So how do you interview someone that you've just seen face to face? But you know, I owe all of this, this opportunity to meet Bill because of Sam Shaheen. And many of you know Sam Shaheen as a community leader, visionary, but Sam is an incredible connector. And that's how he connected Bill to the conscious capitalism journey a few years ago. And that's how Bill and I got to know each other. So I'm so excited to actually see who he is. So,
and I'll just say that also, I couldn't be more appreciative of Sam and the impact he's had on me, the mentorship that he's shared with me, coaching, holding me accountable. So, and I appreciate that he took the time to be here today. So I'll just reiterate that, Gene.
Great. That's awesome. You know, Castor Concepts has been a 4-tenant partner and has supported this movement, even though being in Albion, Michigan. And Bill is obviously a very busy guy, as you're going to get to know. And I just admire so many of his accomplishments with, in particular, within the community of Albion. We're going to get to that. Bill is a very humble guy. In fact, he does not like the attention on him so much. And my sense is he's going to direct and deflect this all to his family and the people that work with him. And because I had to twist his arm to come here, he just didn't want the center of attention. So, Bill, thanks for taking the risk to spend a few minutes with us.
I was fortunate that he downgraded me from a speaker to just we'll have a conversation. So that was.
Okay, so Bill, enough of me talking. What I'd like to do is just give you an opportunity to share your background about your family, about how you got started in business, your journey from the medical field, to MD, to running a company. It's an amazing story. Why don't you share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I appreciate that, and thank you very much for being here. I feel like I'm conscious capitalism lightweight compared to the people in the room and the speakers that went before me. We're certainly not taking on literacy in Africa, and I don't have 300, 500 employees that I've organized in the way that was shared this morning. There's some incredible accomplishments, so I thank you just for helping us share what little we're doing in Albion. So I grew up in a rural community close to Albion, was fortunate some way to get invited to attend Albion College, which Sam and I have in common also, and studied biology and was lucky enough at that point to get accepted to Michigan State Medical School. I spent 25 years practicing family medicine in the Albion and Marshall area. I was fortunate enough to practice with two of my brothers in a family practice setting, and we were pretty traditional family practice people, doing deliveries and taking care of nursing homes and everything in between. So it was a tremendous 25-year rewarding career, and like most of our jobs over 25 years, it had changed a lot, and it had changed in ways that I wasn't necessarily fond of. And in between all that, the story is my dad was retiring at 65 and didn't want to retire. And so at 67 years old, he started the business that now we know as Castor Concepts. And I said, I'm kind of interested in what you're doing. And I'm not wild about being in medicine these days. And so my career evolved into being a key part of a manufacturing business, which I knew very little about. And it's not a typical career path for a physician to get into a sort of a traditional manufacturing business. But I was lucky to have the opportunity, and it has been life-changing. At 52 years old, I went back to the University of Michigan and got my MBA, and sort of decided I was going to reinvent myself. And I think in many ways, when I think about conscious capitalism and how it's changed my life, I think that is another reinvention of what I was doing. I think I've tried to take the best of what I've learned in medicine and combined it with a manufacturing business today that's 125 employees, that resides in a town that's in many ways, and Sam and I have talked about this, it's a microcosm of Saginaw and the challenges that Saginaw has had. It has its own challenges. It has a very well thought of liberal arts school there. But beyond that, it has, about 25% of the people have disposable income. I don't have to go very far to find literacy issues or educational issues or anything like that, which I'm sure in Saginaw we struggle with the same things. And so I'm fortunate to move into a manufacturing. I was fortunate enough to, My dad put me in a position to be in a majority ownership, and then eventually my partner decided to take a different direction. And so, you know, it's the realization, be careful what you wish for, you know, that all of a sudden you've got the wheel, and what am I going to do with it? And now there's 100 people that depend on me making the right decisions. And you know, how do we sort of get our heads right when we're doing that? And so that's how I ended up where I am, and it's been a great life. I have 3 kids, 2 girls, 1 son. My son works, really does all the heavy lifting at the business that we're in. My 2 girls are involved in the nonprofits we've started in town, and my daughter also runs the bakery we have in town. So we've been involved in economic development, again, thanks to Sam and twisting arms and really showing me what it means by doing the right thing. The Lord has blessed me and my family with health and wealth of a variety of different resources, and really it's, you know, what do we do with that we've been blessed with, and how do we impact the people around us, which is why we're here today, frankly.
Yeah, you know, thank you for sharing that, Bill. You know, obviously relationships are really, really important, and obviously this relationship you had with Sam really encouraged you. But were there any specific concepts of conscious capitalism that really drew you to this movement? I mean, at some point in time, you have to make a conscious decision and say, hey, I'd like to do something with this. And we're going to get into some of that. In fact, maybe give you a minute to think about that. Let's watch Castor Concepts. He put a series of short videos describing his business. Of course, Bill's not in there. He's got someone else doing it. But I think I chose this one because it involves his daughter. And I think you're going to get maybe a little deeper understanding about who Bill is, who his company is, and let's take a look.
My name is Caroline Dobbins, and I've worked for Castor Concepts for about a year now. We, as a company and as an organization, are committed to more than just the product that goes out the door. It means that we're committed to our employees, my colleagues. It means that we're committed to the community that our employees live and work in. And it means that we're a part of something bigger, and that feels really cool. I've been involved in a lot here in the community of Albion. As a part of Castor Cares, I've supported the Swing at the Shell Summer Concert Series, the Run Albion 5K Series, and I've also worked closely with Albion Reinvestment Corporation and the Albion Economic Development Corporation about the work that Castor's is supporting in downtown Albion. I think everyone is impacted by Castor Cares in some way, whether it's the good feeling that I get. I see families coming into the bakery in the morning. That gives me a feeling of pride of our community. I see it when I go to the farmer's market and there are more and more people each week, and I see them getting the fresh bread that they're looking for, or the sweet corn on the cob to have with their family in the evening. I think that's where I've seen it most recently, but also in the faces of our employees when I come into Castor Concepts and employees are excited to tell us about what they did over the weekend when they're out and about around town, or that they took their family to the BOEM. I think those are the times that I feel Castor cares the most. But it's also great to provide such an amazing impact to other local nonprofits. I love working for a company that's willing to get involved and think creatively about what getting involved means. It's not simply just writing a check to a nonprofit or to support the local festival, though that is important, but it's also empowering our employees to enjoy their community and try something new. And I think that, for me, makes it easier to come to work every day and really build a strong bond that will bring our community forward for generations to come.
Wasn't that a great smile? Bill, you have created like 3 or 4, maybe 5 videos, and I just chose one of them. How'd you come up with that, and you know, the idea, and where do you use those? Because it really gives us a feeling of who you are as an organization and your leadership in the community.
Yeah, going back to your original question, I think, the story is the same. I think no matter who we talk to, is that, we started out doing the right thing, and we didn't know exactly, there wasn't a tagline for it or anything like that at all. But I believe as a business and as a family, we started out doing the right thing, and the right thing turned into, more right things, so to speak. And so, I think, 2 things sort of, early on when Sam and I got involved, I got in tune to what really social impact investing was about. And social impact investing is, the difference between return on your investment and the return of your investment. So if I get my original investment back, I can redeploy it in a variety of different ways. And so, frankly, a marketing team came along and said, you're doing so much in the community, I think it's worthwhile to sort of put a tag to it. So that's where the Castor Cares came from. And again, that we talked about playbooks and the importance of playbooks. That's given us our sort of own internal playbook of, putting action to purpose and driving home our purpose statement with measured actions that I can talk to my employees about, I can explain to them, I can educate them, I can share with people in the community about why we do that. And so, it's just it's an evolutionary process rather than a revolutionary process. Nobody flips the switch and goes like, oh my gosh, now I get it. Mm-hmm. It's the colliding of different ideas. Stephen Johnson writes a great book about where great ideas come from. And, it's not one idea we come up with, it's a collision of multiple ideas that really, have the outcome that we desire, I think.
Yeah, well, that's a great lead up to your higher purpose statement. Do we want to share and talk about your higher purpose statement? How'd you come up with that? And what does that mean to your employees?
Yeah, well, how did I come up with it? I called you up and said, Gene, how do you come up with a purpose statement? And so he shared his story with me. And then he was kind enough to get on a video call with my leadership team and sort of, shared the story and shared the process and the way they went through that. And so, I think again, it's an iterative process. It's not something you go like, oh my gosh, now I got it. It was over, probably almost a year time with my leadership team of, is this the right, you try to condense it, you try to put the right words associated with it and put the meaning that narrows it down. You start out with a paragraph and you start pulling words out and continue to narrow it down. So we wanted to make sure that manufacturing was in it, because that at the core of what we do is we manufacture, we make stuff. And so the manufacturing of greatness, which is what we all strive for, we choose to define what great means. Great in my world and my employees' world can vary, but we manufacture greatness in families. We believe that a key part of our society should be our families, and we can define family the way, our family with my kids and my wife, our family within our community, our families within our churches or other organizations. So, and then our employees, and then our community. So we want to manufacture greatness in those portions of our lives. So, but it was an iterative process, I think, just like you shared, Gene.
Yeah, and as you created it, I mean, your team created this, and so they owned it, right?
They did.
And that really speaks volumes. You know, how do you use your higher purpose statement, which is manufacture greatness within our employees to positively impact families, communities, and our customers? And so, as you look at that, do you find that when you interview new people to come into your organization, do you bring this up, and is that part of the process?
Yeah, this is where we're still on the journey, just like all of you are still on the journey of how do I get better, and how do I make this more, how do I ingrain this in the organization? So yes, every interviewee that comes in, we give them the purpose statement, and we give them a description of the organization. And so they have that, whether they get hired or they don't get hired. Hopefully they take it somewhere else and they share that also. So, we're doing better and better at it, and we have a long ways to go. And ingraining this in the business. That me, we, us sort of thing. I'm sort of in between me and we, and so we have a lot of work to do, and we're continuing to do that, and we're excited about the progress that we're making.
You know, it's really interesting. If you have a chance to go visit the other videos, he has several other employees share their thoughts and feelings of why they work for Castor and what makes it such a special organization to work for. It comes through really, really clear. You know, one of the other things that in looking at your background and reading about the number of some of your clients, your strategic alliances, they all speak very, very well about not only your integrity, but the way your company does business. And in particular, they are very specific about the quality of your organization, the quality of your product. Can you speak to that from a consciousness of how your employees have bought into that? And obviously you've done a great job relative to that.
You know, it's the Sam Walton thing. You know, the customer can fire you anytime they want. And, quality, it used to be you could either have price or you could have quality. You decide. You want a low price, then you don't get the quality. Well, we all know we don't live in that world any longer. So quality is just what you have to provide. So, I think my team has done a great job, and we make a product that frankly most of you probably will never see. It goes into the manufacturing of other products, basically. It doesn't go on something you would buy, or even frankly your company might buy, but it goes into manufacturing airplanes and off-road vehicles and automotives, and any place where there's major manufacturing, moving things through a manufacturing organization. So it can be something that the employee sees it as, well, it's going to go in some dirty hole anyways, and so why does it have to be perfect? Well, somebody pays a lot of money for what we do, and when they open that box, it better look like it's worth a lot of money, and so I think it's continuum messaging, and it's where you set the bar and where you set the standards. I'll go off script a little bit, but sure. Part of just sort of thinking through this and the opportunity, and I went back and read John Mackey's Conscious Leadership book over the last 3 weeks, and and we had my leadership retreat last weekend, and one of the things that we we spent a lot of time on was love, and love in business. And what does love in business really mean? Sometimes we, as leaders, we might shy away from the word love, you know, not politically correct or whatever it may be. But, you know, the message of quality or the message of cleanliness or the message, whatever that may be, really is only communicated when the employee, I think, feels the love from a leadership standpoint. And love, John Mackey talks about boundaries and how we set boundaries for our employees. Well, boundaries are really, I think, another term for culture, you know, and within a culture, there's certain things that are acceptable. And certainly the culture of quality, the culture of cleanliness, the culture of respect, and culture of love, empathy, you know, is where our business continues to work to make key parts of our business, and hopefully it shows up in our products. Hopefully it shows up in our employees. Hopefully it shows up in their families or churches or whatever they do outside of our work also.
That's perfect. I think we have about 5 more minutes, or a couple more minutes. Just a couple more minutes, okay. You know, Bill, I'm going to just give you the final 2 minutes. Yeah, what final thoughts can you share maybe with a firm that maybe is continuing to go forward, and how do they become more conscious about moving forward in leading their business?
I talked about going back to business school at 52 years old. You know, being in medicine, you had to be a continual learner. Going back to business school, I had to learn. I had to learn a lot of things. But I don't think you can go down this journey without educating and being open and being transparent about where you are, where your organizations are, and there, you know, this is a continual education process. This is an education, being here today. That's part of the education. Certainly reading, there's all sorts of ways to educate yourself. But, you know, I don't think you can go this path and be sincere about it without being sincere about education. Education of ourselves, education of our employees, education of our communities, you know, whatever it may be. And so, you know, it takes great people like Sam and Jean to connect us, to set a standard. And then it's us being open enough and transparent enough about where we are to accept that feedback, to head down these paths or continue to move down these paths even when it's a struggle. And so, you know, I think we all do that differently, so I don't think there's necessarily a recipe for everybody. But we have to be open. We have to realize that there's always a way, a better way. And I think if we do that, we'll continue to move forward.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Bill. And thank you for making the trip here to Saginaw today and sharing your thoughts here. It's really been a pleasure to finally meet you. And let's give Bill a great round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Dean.
All right. Very good.
Thank you. Very nice.
All right, let's wrap it up. Okay, we've reached the end of the program today. And again, I just want to extend a couple more thank yous. Julie Molesky from Nextier, JW from Fisher Companies, Reinbold Printing and Harbor Light Photography. Again, their contributions today make this all work out. Their extra contributions is very, very much appreciated. Let's give them a round of applause. I also want to extend my thanks to the conference center staff. They've done a fabulous job to getting us all organized so that things can run smoothly. Thank you guys so much. Let's give them a round. And I want to thank really the person who really put this all together and her team. You've met a lot of her team, but Angie Krenz, the amount of detail that she has put in time and effort to get all these things put in place at the right time and the moment. Angie, thank you for your leadership. And finally, if you are not a 4-tenant partner and would consider to be a part of this organization in a bigger way and join us, please see Angie or myself or one of the other folks, Bob Martin, and we'd be happy to take you through that and get you engaged even more. But with that, safe travels. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.